really a warmth, a pleasure, a felicitation, a deep feeling in my heart of hearts to be here with the whole band and a league of the youngest souls of India, the surging aspirant souls of India, of this prestigious school. I thought I'll say something else, but I was so inspired by the initial song that you all had sung on the stage, and I was just following some of the words. I think somewhere, if I'm not mistaken, there was a line which said, we are going to hold our flag, we are going to pick up our mandate against all adversaries of life. This is so important. And it was followed by another beautiful piece on Purushottam Sri Krishna, the whole tribute to the God of love, to the God of beauty, and to the God of immense divine bliss, whom we call Satchidananda. But we should remember, if you combine the two statements which I have just made, if you combine the two, and I can still hear the music of the song is going on, which is beautiful. Can you all hear that? There's a little bit of music which is rolling on and on. Lord Krishna is of one kind in Vrindavana. He represents the highest bliss of Satchidananda. And you could see the beautiful souls of Vrindavana, the gopis and the gops, the gopinis, dancing to his glory and trying to find out what he is. But there's also another side of Lord Krishna, the Krishna in the war of Kurukshetra. That is a little more important for us, a little more significant for us, a little more pertinent for us. If I combine the second act with the song that you had sung on the stage, we're going to pick up the mantle, the adversaries. Today we live in a plethora of the advent of science and technology. I'll be very quick. I remember I come from IIT Kharagpur. I also graduated from there long back. And in the 50s and the 60s, when IIT Kharagpur being the mother of the IIT system and other IITs came up, I was talking to Mr. Shaw, one of your esteemed physics teacher. From physics was born one of the mothers of engineering, which is the mechanical and the civil, the two engineering branches. And if you go back to the history of IIT Kharagpur, you will see that the best students were coming from there, from mechanical engineering, till about the 40s and the 50s, yet there was not a separate stream for any other branches of engineering. And most of the students who graduated from mechanical engineering were also taught a portion of what was known as electricals. But then in the 50s, there was a separation. And then there were two branches of engineering which were born. The physical part, the physical sciences, physics, civil and mechanical engineering, and absolutely a new branch which was unfolding, which was electrical engineering. And then the best students were coming from there. Not much, no more from mechanical, but they're coming from electricals. I think you're getting me. And then another decade passed with the advent of electrical sciences, with the combination of the physical sciences in the late 60s and early 70s. Small instruments were shot out in the space. There was a birth of space technology. And electrical sciences were bifurcating into two branches. One was getting into the large structures of the universe, which is what you call radio physics and space engineering. And the other was getting into the small structures of the universe, which was microelectronics. And this was a time I was preparing for IIT Kharagpur, trying to crack a JEE. And by the time I entered with my friends, my batchmates, like you shall be entering some college in another 4 or 5 years, or 2 or 3 years, or 1 or 6 months, 1 year or 6 months, I saw another change. And from the electrical sciences was born the electrical and communications and electronics engineering. And when I was stepping into the thresholds of IIT Kharagpur, a little branch was just unfolded, which was the Department of Electronics and Advanced, what you call, microelectronics. And within a few years, as we joined, that came to be known as computer science and engineering. That is the 70s and the 90s. The 70s and the 80s, I should say. And then I passed out. I had the fortune to go abroad and pick up a few degrees in the US. I could see a changing world. We just had a small computer even in the US, which was 286 or 386. And the best of US universities just had a limited network of information exchanges, which is known as a group mail, not the Gmail that we talk together. By the time I was back, there were programs like Lotus 1 to 3, and in engineering sciences there was an amazing data programming, and everybody wanted to pick up that. That was Fortran. And as I was getting my first jobs in Kolkata, I was a part of few of the best organizations in Kolkata. I am not getting into that. That's too much of a personal story. I could see Fortran changing into COBOL and many other advanced softwares. And I came back from the US with a half-hearted feeling that in engineering drawings, there is a more detailed application, which is the computer-aided drawings and drafting, which is CAD. But I still remember a lot of people remarked at that point of time, CAD is just going to remain nascent, like nascent oxygen or nascent hydrogen, and not go any farther from there. I remember as I stepped into the current century, between 98 and 99, when I joined IIT Kharagpur as a visiting faculty, CAD had expounded a double digit, which was like CAD 7.6, 8.6, 9.5. And CAD was almost entering the domains. And the best students were no more coming from electrical and communication engineering, but they're coming from computer science. As I have aged in the next 2 decades, the last and the present one, I've seen students coming not only from computer science engineering, but an application of information technology into the bio and the sensor sciences, which is HMI, human-machine interface, along with an advent of deep learning of data structures and machine learning of data structures, and advancing that on the Internet of Things, which today you call artificial intelligence, which was born about 35 years back. But that time, people remarked the same way that they had remarked about CAD. Today, CAD has taken over everything in design, and design softwares are in the 4th generation, and they're softwares like UI, UX, which is the user interface, user experience, and the different kinds of softwares that's taking up design. You can just simulate this auditorium with your presence, with different softwares, and you can have a real reality and a virtual reality, and you can augment the reality, connecting the two ends, and you call that metaverse. It's like a poetry. Like a poetry, you have a rhythm between the first line of the poem and the last line of the poem. In the same way, you create a digital realm between your realistic level of existence and the digital level of existence. You call that metaverse. So what am I saying to all of you? This is just a life of an ordinary soul like Joy Sen, who somehow got into IIT Kharagpur and managed to find a way through, and then walk all the way in the next 35 years and 40 years, and here I am standing on the stage. Is that there's a huge change which is just going on and on. And today, the best students who are getting the President's Gold Medal are perhaps no more from computer science and engineering. They're from the biosciences, bioinformatics, biocomputational sciences, quantum biology, impacts of quantum biology on human-machine interface. These are the areas where the top universities are constantly working on, whether you take MIT at Cambridge, or National University at Singapore, or the best university of Asia as of now, had been there a number of times, which is the University of Tokyo, in Tokyo itself. So this is absolutely some kind of a battle of Mahabharata, where Lord Krishna is standing. And you see a plethora of change, the change is so fast. And these, you all, the young boys and girls, are facing a world with so much of change. So what is the need of the hour? And you are caught in between a choice that you should take or you should not take. Something that you should compete with and something you should discard with. Something that you should go for and something you should not go for. Something that you start liking and something which you start hating. And then you start trembling, either in the school or at your home or in front of your desktop, and you fail to pick up the bow and the arrow as Arjuna had failed in the battle of Mahabharata. And he was the best warrior at that point of time, who promised his elder brother that he's going to take care of all the enemies in 11 days. And as he came to the battleground, he lost all the confidence, he lost all the certitude, and he lost all the concentrations that he had on the bow and the arrow. Why? Because he was lost in a plethora of changes, in a plethora of attacks coming from so many enemies. And this is an opportunity which Lord Krishna was waiting for. And he took advantage of this, what to do, whether you should pick up the mantle of the school and take up all the challenges of the adversaries, or you drop the mantle and escape the stage and walk out from the back door. Which one? Lord Krishna said, if you do the second one, you're a coward. If you do the first one, you may die. You're a brave person. But remember, you are doing this not for yourself, but for the sake of righteousness, for the sake of truth, for the sake of the promise that you had given your brother, that you're going to take off all the enemies in 11 days. And for the sake of all these hundreds and thousands of people who have come on the battleground. So this life is a battleground, and you're right between the do's and the don'ts and the do's, between what you like and what you dislike. And this is something which you call dialectics, something which is diabolic. It is absolutely a split, and it gives you a shiver. It gives you a tone of underconfidence, which is running in our current pedagogy of education. By pedagogy, I mean the process, the paradigm, and the penetration into the whole heart of education. We are into a rat race of the book of changes. Every 5 years, there's a change. The latest software is Python and Grasshopper. And some of the computer specialists are saying by next year they're going to be redundant. And there is going to be absolutely a different script by the time you all pass out and step into the colleges and institutions. The changes are going to be faster. They're not going to happen decadally, not even in 5 years. They're going to happen in 1 year and 6 months. That's the level of change. So what do? In this crucial moment of dialectics, you have to turn around and look at the Lord. You have to look at the divine presence. And where is the divine presence? Is it in a temple? Is it in a church? Is it in some mosque? Or is it in some caves in the distant Himalayas? Or is it in some deep forest of Africa? The scriptures of India says no, they are not there. The Lord of the Lords is not there. He is right inside you. your heart of hearts. The Upanishads say, Angushtamatram Purusham. I'll make it very simple. It's like a tip of a finger. It's like that. And it has the blaze of 1,000,000 suns. It provides you all the energy, like a battery is providing the energy to a transmitter, to a radio, like the fuel is providing the energy to an aircraft taking off, like the blaze of the lightning, the energy which is provided by the dashing of two clouds, positive and negative. In the same way, the Lord of the universe is constantly providing the energy, and He is right inside you. So when you look at the dialogue between Lord Krishna and one of the greatest warriors ever written in the chapters of Indian history, Arjuna, you see this beautiful dialogue, dialogical. You get into a dialogue. You are no more into dialectics. You get rid of the do's and the don'ts, and you transcend that, and you reach a point where you bring them closer. I'll make things very simple for you. I'll give you an example, and then I'll switch over to the end of my speech. A rich man and a poor man. Just imagine there's a person standing here, he's a rich man, and there's another person standing here, a very poor man. If you see the two dialectically, then the notion, the dharana is that the rich man is always going to extort and torture the poor man. That's a normal notion. He's rich, he's proud, he's arrogant. You know, he's a Rockefeller or a Chrysler or a Ford or a Azim Premji. And the poor man is always trying to get rid of the rich man by protesting, by waging revolutions and things like that. But life does not end there. Life says a rich man can become a good rich man by extending a portion of his money to the poor man. And the poor man can use that little richness from the rich man, and one day he can again become rich and continue the legacy. How is it possible? Because there's a dialogue between the rich man and the poor man. There's a dialogue between Lord Krishna and Arjuna. So in other words, you raise yourself from the dialectics of do's and don'ts to the dialogical dialogue plane of getting things together. And you can transfer the rich from a wiser person to the person who needs that richness to be rich. So this is the second level of education. And this is the dialogue that you have to reach. And you move eventually from a level of competition, from hating each other, to a level of cooperation and knowing each other. This is what John Nash says, game theory, the beautiful mind acted by a famous actor, Russell Crowe. So these are not philosophies of India only, these are philosophies which are built around the world. And when you reach the level, the second level of dialogical, then you can see the connections between the two things which were apparently separated out, and you can see the middle path where you can bring the two together, and then you know exactly what your duty is. So your duty is to defeat the enemies and make them know that all they had been doing so far was not good, and make the righteous victorious, and make him also know that he deserved the victory. That is the way of the world. That is a dialogue of victory. That is taking up the mantle to go against all adversaries. I picked up that line from the song you're singing. And Sangacha Sangbadha, you're all together on the stage, and then you cooperate, you come together. You have a wonderful school of about 4,000 students. I just came to know from your principal, Dr. Sina, whom I know for over 2 decades. A lot of changes between the 2 decades. And it is from there the whole world changes from you. And you see the connections between physics and biology. Between biology and physics, you get biophysics. You see the connections between biology and chemistry. You see biochemistry. You see the connections between music and physics. You become a Pythagoras or a Leonardo da Vinci. You see that the same mode, M-O-D-E, which is a certain relationship of measurement that you apply in physics to look at the harmonics of waves, is the same feature that characterizes the progression of tones and tunes in music. So when it's tune, it's music, and when it's tone, it's art. It's art. I mean, it's like Michelangelo or Nandalal Bose from Shantiniketan, or Manikda, who is Shutvait Rai. So you reach a level where you can see the unity under the apparent veils of diversity. So you never and no more belong to the world of do's and don'ts. You start living in a world of everything together. And you can see the connections between everything. And then you reach the harmony of truth in the words of Swami Vivekananda and the words of Sri Aurobindo and others. And you start seeing the top of the triangle. You have already gone beyond the dialectics. You have gained your confidence, as the confidence which I watched when I saw about 100 of you singing that song. And then you go to the next level, which is the apex of the pyramid. You start casting a pyramid of evolution. And that pyramid is not outside in Egypt or in Sumeria or in Incas. It's right inside you. It's a hierarchy of minds. And you reach the highest level, which is integration. And you see the whole universe inside you. And you see yourself everywhere in the universe. Why should I help a person who is poor if I am rich? The initial logic says I have extra richness, that's why I'm helping him. I can easily loan out a few. But when you go to the third and the final level, the answer is I am helping the person because the self in me is also the self in him. So the self in me is helping the self in him. Sarva bhutastatmanam sarva bhutani chatmani. This is the Gita as said by Lord Krishna, who was just dancing on the stage about half an hour back, or maybe 20 years back, or 20 minutes back, not 20 years back. 20 years back I was dancing with Madam at the Institute of Culture in a spiritual function, and our friendship has remained. And there you see the connection of this integrity, and you see the final unity of the universe. And then you get beautiful souls like President APJ Abdul Kalam, who is reading the Quran in the morning and reading Sri Aurobindo's Life Divine in the evening and the Upanishads in the late night, and he's working on the best of emanations that will empower India. So he's both modern and both traditional at the same time. So the need of the hour is to reach this highest level, the triangle, which Abraham Maslow calls the hierarchy of needs, the summit, where you reach the topmost level, which is called self-esteem. And what is self-esteem? Self-esteem is not the esteem of how rich you are by virtue of money, but how rich you are by virtue of a power through which you can share money. So the earth that you have finally becomes Param Earth. You transform your whole existence, and you can see happiness in outside, and that happiness is already reflected inside. I think I have to mention one person without which any dialogue in India remains incomplete, which is Hemoro Devota Amar Mache Tomare Koriya Dan. I think everybody follows a bit of Bengali here. So the Devata, the God, the divinity that I am trying to see outside is actually the self inside. And that divinity is each and every one. So if I hate someone, if I am in competition with someone, if I am against someone, I am actually against myself. I am hating myself. And somewhere in my life, I'll get a return back. But if I am helping someone, if I am with someone, if I am developing dialogues with someone, then I'm making myself as a true human being, and somewhere in my life, I'll get that back. It takes me back to a movie which you have not seen, but I saw when I was in your age. The name of the movie is Sound of Music. And there was a lady she did nothing in her life. She was just a humpy-jumpy girl who was brought into a church. She became a nun, and finally she became the wife of a captain who had about 7 or 8 children. And she was absolutely taken aback, she was absolutely embellished, she was absolutely ecstatic, and she was singing the song of the Upanishads, which said, somewhere in my youth, I must have done something good. Nothing comes from nothing, something from something. So there must be something somewhere which had led to what is happening to my life right today. And this is exactly Newton's third law of motion. To every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Now what happens in this triangle, when you're at the lowest level of dialectics, the reactions are as horrible as the actions. But when you're at the next level, which is dialogical, the reactions become complementary, samartha, with your actions. And when you reach the third level, integrate, the actions represent the reactions. They become one. And you reflect the universe. So I think in this beautiful August gathering, in this ceremony of today, it's just not an annual prize distribution which is happening to a few of you and not to the rest. I think everybody in this auditorium deserves one prize with which you are born. That is the divinity inside you. As Swami Vivekananda said, every soul is potentially divine. You are potentially divine. But the whole purpose is to make the potential kinetic. So the whole onus of evolution of life is to convert the potential energy, which is mgh, into kinetic energy, which is half mv squared. And once you're able to do that, your education is complete. You become a happy human being, and one day you'll be able to make everybody around you happy. That is the whole purpose of education. That is the whole purpose of man-making, against the change, the rat race, or the plethora of technological development. Technological development is not a curse. It is the way you use technological development. So the onus, the responsibility is in the hands of the beholder. Amar chetanay panna holo shomuj. I'll see the technology as emerald if I know that the emerald is green. So I should develop my eyes, my hands, my clinical senses to a green-field humanity. So I see greenness, I see shobuj, I see the mountains, and I can see him. I can see the ocean, the waves, I can see him. I see the little boys and girls who were dancing about half an hour back. I can see him in each of them. I'm only seeing the Lord. I'm only seeing Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Everywhere I'm seeing him. This is the whole purpose of education. The same force which defines physics, the same metal which defines chemistry, the same life which defines biology, is the same principle that defines our Gita. There's only one force which has become everything in the universe. Ekam Sad Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. Thank you so much.